Hello, Michael Tillinger here. Welcome back to more frequently asked questions about one small town and contributionism. And in this video we deal with the question, how will we get electricity? And is electricity necessary for us to launch the one small town plan of action? This is a very important question because for many years you may recall me talking about the importance of electricity and especially the importance of our own supply of electricity supply that belongs to the people. The electricity is critical, but it's not essential to have our own source of electricity to launch the One Small Town initiative. I want to make it very clear right up front that the moment you start dealing with the issue of electricity, alternative electricity supply, alternative electricity generation, new technology, what many people refer to as free energy or electricity devices, all of that is real, all of that is possible, but the moment you start dealing in that area, it becomes extremely tricky and also extremely dangerous. Now, I can say to you with absolute confidence and honesty that I've had some extreme experiences in this area. I'm not going to go into the detail, but what I want to tell you is that we have our own supply of electricity. We have the technology. We have the inventors. We have the scientists. We have more than one type of technology available. We also understand how tricky this is in some countries, in some states, in some provinces, in some cities to actually implement your own source of electricity. Because there are all kinds of rules, regulations, laws, bylaws, acts and bills that try and prevent communities from taking control to supply their own electricity. There's obviously an agenda behind it, and that agenda is to keep us enslaved and controlled. If we can't provide our own electricity, that is a serious attack on our liberties, our freedoms, and our constitutional rights. It's like saying you don't have a right to water. So this is a very tricky but an important subject to talk about. So I want to put your mind at ease that we have the technology, we can implement it, and we will implement it, but it is not free to manufacture. So when we talk about providing free electricity, it still means that the town, under the leadership of the mayor and the council of elders and the town council, need to buy the technology for that town or that community. It's like you buy anything else. Once you buy a car, but then the car is yours. You no longer have to pay for rental of the car. So once we have and bought our own generator for our town, it then belongs to the community. Now this is where the interesting and important thing comes in. Once we own that supply of electricity, that ownership itself can become the funding mechanism for everything we need to do or want to do in our town. You can imagine, instead of us paying all the money over to the electricity supplier, let's imagine our town is paying $1 million or a million rand a month over to the national or the local electricity supplier. Well, we're no longer going to pay that. We're now going to keep that $1 million a month or million rand or whatever it is in our town, in our community. And with that, because it belongs to the people, because the generator belongs to us, we can then use that money to initiate all the different businesses, all the activities, the community projects, whatever it is we want to do for our community. A very important part of this electricity generator that we will install for the town, the community, is that it will belong collectively to the people of the community. It will never be sold to an individual, to a corporation, to a government or a department or a province or a municipality or a mayor or the town council. It will be given or sold to the town, to the people collectively, to the co-op. So no individual or individual corporation can take control of that electricity, that generator. This is really important because many of the questions that I get all the time is, how will we control the electricity? How will we prevent from somebody stealing it, running away with it? This is how we do this. It will never be sold to the mayor or the town council or the town. It will be sold to the people as a collective, as a community. So no individual will ever own it. And there'll be obviously very strict contracts written into this sale agreement. There'll be maintenance and fixing things if anything goes wrong, repairs with a generator, that will be a very small monthly payment towards the company to maintain and service the generator. So this has been very, very well worked out, very well thought through over many, many years. This is not something that we've thrown together, haphazardly trying to concoct something here. This is a very well defined and designed plan of action with very strong security measures put in place and legal measures put in place so that the generator can never be hijacked and can never land in the hands of an individual that can then use it for their own benefit or to exploit the town, to try and hijack the electricity supply to that town. The moment that happens, certain measures will kick into place that the town will either lose the generator, the company will take it back, Ubuntu Planet will take it back because Ubuntu Planet owns the technology and the rights to manufacture and distribute that technology. So it's really important to understand this. So we don't at any stage promote the idea of selling individual generators to private individuals, corporations, companies, countries, presidents, energy departments, anything like that. The only group of people as a collective that will ever own our technology, our electricity generator, will be the collective of people that represent the One Small Town Initiative. The moment they don't want to implement the One Small Town Initiative, then that generator will be removed. They no longer have the right to use the generator. So the generator will come exclusively to a town and a mayor and the collective of the people of the town once they've agreed to implement the One Small Town strategy. Even if it's a small number or a small percentage of the people, but it has to be that agreement and that foundation upon which we install that technology. So this is really important. If and when the opportunity arises for us to implement and install our own electricity generator, when we have the conditions and we can do it, and I can tell you right now that there are conditions under which this can be done. We have found the conditions and the situations. We found it in the USA, we have found it in Australia, we found it even in the UK, in South Africa, and especially in countries like Brazil. So there are solutions for this. We know that we can find ways to get the rights to actually, for the community and the town, to install their own generator. So we have crossed that bridge already several times, but I guess we're going to have to cross it one town at a time and one community at a time to see where their own problems, where their own laws and legislations lie, so we can overcome those hurdles and the obstacles to progress. So this is really important. So understand that technology is available. We will make it available to the town and community. This is the key thing though. We are not prepared to make this technology available to individuals, for individuals in their homes to buy this technology. Because that is where we've gone wrong for so many years. Because many people, many inventors, and this is a problem that I've found dealing with dozens and dozens of inventors and scientists that have developed this kind of technology. Most of these inventors are very naive about what's going on in the world. And that becomes the biggest problem to our progress and to our success. Most of these inventors still believe that when they take their invention to the government, they'll get a pat on the back and they'll become a hero because they'll be celebrated as the person that has solved the energy crisis for their country or their whatever, wherever they are. That is not the case, obviously. We know what the agenda is. We understand that the global elite use the electricity control as one of their key cornerstone tools of control. It's electricity or energy. Energy includes petroleum, obviously, as well, because you can imagine once we have alternative sources of electricity, we no longer have to use petroleum to run our cars and automotive industry, right? So there's a huge extension to the free electricity component or story. So one of the cornerstones of global control by the global elite is energy, which is electricity and petroleum. Then obviously it's media, it's pharmaceutics, and it's religion. Those are the four major cornerstones of our our control. Obviously, education is in there. Religion is actually the fifth one. But I'll talk about the cornerstones of control in different videos, not in the frequently asked questions. So what I've found is that the biggest obstacle to progress is not really the technology. It's the people that invented, the scientists and inventors. They really are like naive little babies most of the time that want to run into the arms of the devil, of the enemy, and hand over their technology. And most of the time, these people also believe that they need to patent their invention. They need to patent their technology. And that becomes an instant problem, because once you've patented something, that means they know who you are, they know how your technology works, they know exactly what steps to take to shut you down and prevent you from ever getting that out to the public. The biggest problem here is that even if they did succeed to get their little generator out, and they want to sell the generator to every household, so every household has its own free supply of electricity and that takes the electricity under control, that is not a solution. In fact, that becomes a bigger problem to the world than we could ever have imagined. Just imagine the drug wars, the drug lords, all the different cartels, the criminal organizations that operate around the world, whether it's petroleum cartels, the drug cartels, the money cartels, etc., etc. They'll be pale into insignificance, basically. They'll look like little child's play compared to the cartels that will arise if and when, or if, let's not say when, if some inventor manages to somehow get his free technology generator onto the market. Because these people are much smarter than you and I could possibly ever imagine. Plus, they've also got all the money in the world. They got the best and the most powerful lawyers in the world and the judges in their pockets. They will take control of that technology that these naive inventors have put out. They will take control of that technology, and they'll control the global supply. They'll lock down places. They'll make new rules and laws that only they can sell it. They'll monopolize that sector, and it'll become a global energy cartel that makes all the other cartels pale into insignificance in their brutality and their control and how they pretty much try and control the world. So the electricity part of the one small town is a critical but incredibly complicated problem to overcome. But let me rephrase that. It's a very complicated subject. It's not difficult to overcome. We have overcome it already several times, as I mentioned. And often it is a lot easier than people think, because many of us assume that there are these rules and laws and restrictions that we can't do this, we can't do that. But when you actually go out and find out what the rules and restrictions are, you'll find that it is not as difficult to overcome those. So I'd like to put that out to you as well. So in the one small town initial launch, etc., the implementation where the mayor becomes the voice and the face, launches this very exciting initiative, invites the investors, invites the inventors, the scientists, the healers, the teachers, etc., into his or her town to come and share their, invest into these amazing new businesses that we're launching with the cooperative labor force of our town, the people of our town. The electricity is and can play a very key and initial attractive role to the investors and so forth. But it is not critical. We don't need that initial electricity to launch the one small town. This is really important for people to understand. Even if we don't have that electricity in place, we can launch the one small town strategy and invite the investors and start setting up the businesses. Keep in mind that in the normal world, companies and large corporations and factories and mines, etc., all pay for electricity. They all pay, and they spend a lot of money on electricity. So it's not something that investors are not used to. They're very used to including electricity as a factor, as an expense in factoring the profitability of that business. So we can launch the one small town without our own source of electricity, but we need to launch the at the same time, while we launch the one small town with a mayor and so forth, and the weekly marketing and PR and the selling the steak, selling the sizzle and not the steak about all the exciting things we're doing, we at the same time start the process of acquiring our generator. Now, there are various things that can happen. We can acquire a very large generator that costs a lot of money, or we can acquire smaller generators that we can put together. They'll stack like Lego blocks and so forth. There are various ways of doing it. We will only cross that bridge once we get there. There are ways that are much cheaper and ways that are more expensive. And that bridge will be crossed once we have a consensus with the mayor, we have absolute agreement, we have signed contracts, so that people can't pull out. Because you can imagine, this will have to be run like a proper business, because once you commit to this, you need to deliver. Otherwise, if you pull out, you're going to let down a lot of people. And that is not what we want to achieve. We don't want to have failure because people get cold feet and they pull out. So this is going to require commitment from people that have got a very clear vision how simple this is, and how they have to contribute very little other than their 3 hours, how the mayor has very little to lose except the selling the promise of a better life and a better community. So it's a very simple process, but we do need to start negotiating and starting the process of acquiring our own generator for the town, and at the same time launching the One Small Town strategy with identifying the businesses that we want to start, that we believe are the businesses that will create the fastest cash flow turnover, right? So we want to create a number of businesses that create immediate daily cash flow, and businesses that create monthly cash flow, businesses that create quarterly and 6 monthly cash flow, and then bigger businesses that create maybe an annual cash flow. So there's an immediate, short-term, medium and long-term activity and prospects, businesses that we need to identify and launch. The electricity is critical, but it's not essential to have our own source of electricity to launch the One Small Town initiative. I hope that makes sense to you, because maybe I'll do another video where I'll talk about the count of technology, but that gets too tricky and the people get lost in that. But where I can tell you with absolute confidence, the technology exists. This is not pie in the sky. I have personally seen many of these technologies. Unfortunately, as I said, these inventors are often our own worst enemies, and it's the inventors that 99% of the time so far have caused the breakdown of us being able to launch the new technology generator to the world and offer it to the mayors and the small towns. Unfortunately, that has been the case. There is one incident where we have access to the technology, but it is a little bit too complicated, and the inventors of that particular technology have dug in their heels and they don't really want to give it away or sell it to the communities. They have a whole different agenda. I'm not quite sure what that agenda is, but that's a discussion for another time. So I trust that answers the question for you. How will we get electricity? We continue getting electricity from wherever we're getting it right now. We don't need our own supply of electricity. But the moment we get our own generator installed, a lot of things can change, because we then no longer need outside investors, because we can become our own investors in our own businesses that we're going to start purely from the monthly income that we generate as a town from our own generator, because we then hold on to that money instead of paying it to some company that is supplying us with electricity. If there are any more questions about electricity, please put it under the video and I'll answer it in a separate video. Until later, this is Michael Tillinger. Bye for now.